Hans, what were you going to say that you had to repeat exactly once you were recording?
I said to Aaron, I have a feeling that if his dad watched this movie, he would have an aneurysm because I know the square root of jack about the military, and I almost had an aneurysm watching this movie.
I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole because I was so bothered by some of the details in this movie.
Okay.
Oh, it's awful.
Okay, but I actually think you got to hear me out. Aaron's dad could just write everything off like, oh, you know, it's the Air Force, like, you know, whatever, like, oh, in the Air Force, maybe.
In the chair force, you know. Maybe that's how they do things over there. Just let people fly away with their planes.
Yeah, all the time.
This is how you guys do this?
Well, we haven't started
what do you mean
yet.
this is how we do this?
We
You
haven't.
don't have like some introduction.
Oh, we're
with,
about
like,
to get
all of
there.
you?
No, we're
getting there.
Oh, we're getting there.
But you can't check your six. It's kind of like, taking a screwdriver to a gunfight. What's happening? Just like on top.
Did anybody see Barbie? Please.
Not yet.
Okay. We'll talk about Flight of Fury instead, I guess.
Come on, Bobby, let's go party.
No, we are doing the Barbenheimer. We're seeing Oppenheimer at like 9:35 a.m. and then Barbie at 6:05 p.m. Seeing Oppenheimer before 10 a.m. in IMAX is going to be wild.
That's going to be an experience. You're going to walk out, the sun's up. I have to say, though, you're doing it in the right order.
Oh.
Having
you seen
seen both.
Oppenheimer yet, Aaron?
Yep. Saw it in IMAX
okay.
Sunday night.
Night. Oh, that's right.
Was yours a true IMAX?
True IMAX.
Wait, really?
I drove an hour.
You went to King of Prussia?
There is one in York, apparently.
Not okay.
What do you mean?
Not to tell you, hey, actually, you suck, but
It was IMAX.
I know this is one of Zach's pet peeves.
So,
what?
Whenever you define true IMAX, it depends what you mean. For Oppenheimer specifically, you need to look for if digital, a dual laser, or film 70 millimeter. And the only 70 millimeter, like true full IMAX screens in Pennsylvania are at the Carnegie Science Center, which does not play like full movies, just like museum documentaries, and in King of Prussia. So the one in York probably is some type of IMAX, but it's not the full uncut 70 mil. There's only like 30 of them in the entire world.
The standards of what can be called IMAX vary.
Yeah, it's what we call Limax. So what you saw was what we call Kroppenheimer.
Oh no!
You didn't get the full 70 millimeter like aspect ratio.
3/4 of an inch on the edge of the frame.
Exactly.
I couldn't see Emily Blunt's pores.
So I wouldn't be surprised though, Aaron, if you did see it in like a cooler IMAX than what the Waterfront has. Maybe you have a really cool IMAX, but it is not the.
It was a nice IMAX.
It is not the certified, guaranteed, 100% USDA organic grade A Oppenheimer experience that Christopher Nolan intends.
Welcome back to Steven See It All. I'm Hans.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Zach, and
today we're joined by my best friend and I guess Zach's wife, Sara.
Yeah.
Yay!
Long-time
welcome.
listener, first-time see-it-aller.
I don't think Sarah's actually listened to a single
Zero-time
episode of our
listener.
podcast.
Zero-time listener.
Unfortunately, first-time see-it-aller.
It's amazing. Your first
Seagal
experience
film
of this, your
ever.
first experience of this podcast and of Seagal was just being on this podcast.
Yeah,
It's
I
amazing.
didn't do my homework well, or else I would know about this introduction and all the
That's okay.
dabble that you do
It's
beforehand. But
fine. Trust me.
We're just going to roll with it.
So,
There's no real format. Today we're talking about Flight of Fury.
Do we have to?
What year did this movie come out?
2007. IMDb
The
credits it as a
2007 movie.
2007 video.
Video.
The 2007 film Under Siege 3, Flight of Fury.
Real quick, just go over plot beats. Pretty simple. Oh crap! What was his name?
Who cares?
I don't think they
Steven
actually say
Seagal.
it. It's John Sands, according to Wikipedia. I
John
don't think they actually say
Sands.
I don't
that in
think
the
they
movie
ever
anymore.
actually say
They just say
that.
John.
They say-
They just say
They
John.
do
a few
say
times.
John over and over again. Yeah, John Sands. His brain is being wiped for some reason. That's not really explained. He's in prison. He
Never
breaks
comes
out
up
of
again.
prison.
Don't worry about it.
Never comes up again. Breaks out of prison. Gets arrested for stopping some shoplifters. They see the CCTV footage and see that he was not in fact shoplifting, but they do know that he stole a car, but they don't want to arrest him for stealing the car because that's just too easy.
What?
They have to figure out his military record because why? Doesn't really matter. Military gets involved. They call him in and say, we can wipe your slate clean if you get this plane back for us. And somewhere in there, they had this super secret test plane, the X-77, that was stolen by the pilot and taken to, it said Siberia, and then all of a sudden after that, they were in Afghanistan.
So
We'll
flew
talk about that later. I can see.
from California over Siberia and then down through China and then over to Afghanistan.
Yeah. I have some issues with that, but we'll get there.
In one flight.
Then, yeah, one flight. Yeah, we'll get there. Secret plane, the X-77, stolen. Seagal has to get it back, and they'll wipe his record clean, and then he's free of the military. I didn't know that he was not free of the military before, but whatever. I guess that's why he was getting brain wiped. Doesn't matter. That's really the whole thing. He flies there, a whole bunch of antics ensue. He gets the plane back, has the world's worst dogfight, and then the movie's over. I have to touch on something because I have to get out of the way because my brain's I'm literally about to explode.
Go for it.
If, dear listener, you look at the movie poster for this movie, which is what intrigued me so much, the reason why I've been so excited well, not excited, but why I wanted to talk about this one so much. The plane on the movie poster is an F-117 Nighthawk. They even say in the movie that the X-77, this secret plane that has it's so many millions of dollars and has this cloaking ability that makes it entirely invisible, and that's why it's so important. They even say in the movie that it is based on an F-117 Nighthawk. The range of the F-117 Nighthawk, I'm just going to call it the Nighthawk, the range of that, according to the internet, which, who knows, is 765 miles. It is at least 5,000 miles to get from Edwards Air Force Base, where they start off, to get to Siberia, and then another couple thousand miles to get from Siberia to Afghanistan. They did that in one trip, and it happened instantly. Also, they say that the X-77 is a supersonic jet. The Nighthawk is not a supersonic jet. It is a subsonic jet. It also only seats one person, and in this movie, they have two people sitting in it. Why they chose this plane for this movie makes next to zero sense to me.
Let me tell you why.
I can't work it out.
Let me tell you why.
Please do.
Because about a third of this movie is actually just archival footage of planes taking off and landing.
That's what they
And
got.
so they had some archival footage of like this cool looking plane, and it's really easy to take this plane design. So if dear listener, if you don't know what this plane looks like, it's just like a bunch of flat planes. Like, it's very geometric. And so if you want to go into like a video editing program and make that turn invisible, finding the edges on this thing is very easy. It's all straight lines. Like, it would make the editing so much easier for this. There are a couple scenes throughout the movie where the plane turns invisible, which that's much easier to do if it has no organic shapes and it's all just flat planes and straight lines. So I can guarantee that is why that happened.
I guess
It's
that makes
because
sense.
thought,
But they also
I have archival footage of this. It looks pretty cool, and that's going to be super easy to adjust in whatever the 2007 version of After Effects is.
Well, and speaking of archival footage, the most blatant one of that, Seagal has to take an SR-71 Blackbird to get to Afghanistan fast enough to like catch up with this guy who took the subsonic jet, whatever. Not only have all Blackbirds been retired for many years, but they take this one and the footage that they have it leaving the hangar has cars on the runway from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It's so absurd.
I also think some of the shots of the Blackbird are actually like that's like CG, but like lo-fi CG. Like they put a filter over it to make it look like archival footage. Like it looks really off sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway.
Okay, Hans, you do also have to remember that in a previous movie we watched, they talked about a brand new spin-off of the KGB that was 15 years old. Like, these movies are made with...
That's true.
And they're made... The scripts are written with an expiration date, and then they just go well past that expiration date. Like, you have chunky, spoiled milk of a movie script and movie effects here. Every one of these movies was supposed to be made, like, 15 years before it actually came out.
Yeah.
You're right. That's it. So I've one more thing, though. One more thing, and then I'll shut up. The whole point about them having to retrieve this plane is because it has this super secret cloaking technology that effectively makes it invisible. They based it off of a Nighthawk, and I know that it's sci-fi and cloaking technology is a whole separate thing, but it triggered something in my memory. And I remembered that the Nighthawk, it was retired, I think, in 2008, like a year after this movie came out. So it was still somewhat relevant when this movie came out. But I did remember that there was only one instance of a Nighthawk being shot down over, like during any kind of combat. And it was shot down, I have to look this up because I don't remember the year. It was shot down in March of 1999. And the Air Force determined that it wasn't worth going in and trying to salvage the plane. It wasn't worth going in and trying to destroy the plane because the stealth technology on the Nighthawk was already so far outdated and already like well known to the rest of the world that they just let it crash, and I think it was potentially Russia and China from wherever it crashed. They just let them have it. It was fine because in 1999 it was already that dated. I know that the whole sci-fi cloaking thing adds another layer on it, but I thought it was extremely funny that there's a real-world instance of this plane being just left in enemy territory by the military in 1999 because it was already dated, and then this movie decides that they have to have this hypercritical mission where Seagal gets this plane back in 2007.
But was this the $75 million invisible version of the plane that went missing?
Okay, except...
no.
Okay,
but...
we haven't gotten to, like, the important way we should start off these episodes are like general impressions, but I do want to say, like, okay, you just said it's like the $75 million plane, which they state in the movie, except the bad guys pay $100 million for it. Like, they pay the pilot $100 million
and then
steal
another
the
$100
$74
million
million
to fly the
plane
plane to drop 2 bombs. So they pay $200 million for this mission for the $75 million plane.
Yes, and it drove me up the wall. But anyway, we're supposed to, at the beginning of these episodes, just give our general impressions. Hans, you're the lead on this. What's your general impression?
That was it. You have my general impression. This is a dumb as movie. It was absolutely awful, and it made me want to punch my own face over and over and over again because constantly there were just everything happening on screen was so frustrating. No one even did the slightest, teeniest, tiniest bit of research. Every actor was half decent, and then Seagal dragged the scene down as usual. It was just bad. It was so frustrating to watch throughout the entire thing. About 30 seconds before we started the call.
You're always so mad when you come this fresh off of a movie watch.
You need time to, like, cool off before you come on the pod.
They have at one point they don't hear from Seagal and his team, so they decide, we're just gonna have to launch an air raid and bomb the crap out of this plane so that nobody else can get it. Which, cool, fine, whatever. But they have to start planning this like a day in advance, and the admiral on there's this aircraft carrier in somewhere, I don't remember where, the admiral tells the colonel, or I'm sorry, I don't know military ranks because I'm stupid, but he tells the guy in command of the planes to set this up. The guy tells him, I'm not going to send my pilots out there without like a written command from someone above you. I'm not going to send them in enemy airspace unless we have official orders. And then by the end of the movie, he just says, what the hell? We'll send him out there anyway. I got 4 planes up on deck, fueled and ready to go. We don't have written orders. We completely abandoned that part of the plot. But, what's 4 lives? Who cares? Ugh! I hated it.
So I don't think Hans liked it very much.
No.
Nah, I don't think so either.
No.
Aaron, you do raise a good point. Something we didn't even talk about at all is that they just also, before Seagal gets there, drop in like 6 SEAL team members 3 of them die off screen. You literally have a member to say, they're getting killed over there off screen. And then the 3 of them stand in the middle of an empty warehouse and then all get shot to death. So they do absolutely nothing other than get dropped in and immediately die.
But what are your general impressions? What do you think of this movie? If you had to tell somebody what you thought of the movie, which you do because you're telling me.
Aaron has to really wrangle you guys in.
I have to wrangle
I'm the
him
podcast
too.
mom.
Podcast
you
mom.
are the podcast mom. Oh, it fits so well for you.
I did not hate it nearly as much as Hans. I think, honestly, this really is Under Siege 3, because it's basically Under Siege 2 again, where it gets dumb as rocks. And Hans is mad because this plane isn't accurate and the flight times are nowhere near accurate. Like, you can just teleport across the world.
It's a one-man stealth fighter that's flying over 8,000 miles on a single tank of gas.
Did I disagree with him? No, I didn't disagree with him. I'm stating that happened. But
Doesn't
then I
make
go,
sense.
this is dumb as all get out. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of fun. It's very funny that, like, you have one shot of Seagal just, like, single-handedly, like, you know, wielding an AK-47, and then the rest of the movie, and then there's a random inexplicable lesbian sex scene, and then the rest of the movie is like stock footage of planes from the 1970s taking off. This is just like the
And
quality
explosions
of
from
the-
other movies.
and explosions from
Yep.
other movies. It is.
Oh my god.
This should have been the third Under Siege movie, and it should have been like 4 times as dumb as the last Under Siege movie. So they did the boat. Oh, sorry about my microphone. So they did the boat. They did the train. Now they did the plane. Like, they really had something here. I don't know why it's Flight of Fury. It should be Under Siege 3.
What was his name in Under Siege?
I was just thinking about this earlier today. Steven Seagal's
Seagal.
character's name. Casey Ryback.
Casey Ryback.
Like, if you literally just, instead of John Sands, called him Casey Ryback and, like, said he was in the Navy, like, you could change basically nothing else.
Yeah, he was a Navy pilot. Boom, done.
So this is still bad. This is still a very bad movie. Like, one of, in some ways, in some production values, pretty low. One of the worst ones so far, but in terms of the actual watching experience, it was like very middle of the road for me. Like, the entire time I kind of, since I was watching it with Sarah, we were watching it and I was simultaneously explaining what the Seagal movie typically is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was like, this is not the best, but it is not the worst.
Yeah, so just really bad news for you. This is like lower end of the middle of the pack for me. Like, it's not offensively bad like some of the other ones we've watched.
I guess that's true. Sarah, I introduced you and then I just went on a rant because I've been holding it in for like a full hour now. Jesus. I want to hear your thoughts on this because, as I recall, this is your first Seagal movie ever?
Yes, you're correct.
Please, tell me everything about your experience.
I first want to point out that he said that he's been holding this in for an hour when, like, he started in hot 30 seconds after finishing the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been holding it in for an hour since the beginning of the movie.
It's pretty pathetic, Hans.
Pathetic?
Now, it was bad. That was bad.
Would you care to elaborate?
I'm pretty sure that all of your brains have just been rotted by this.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
We've talked about this many times, yes.
Has Zach introduced you to the idea of the flow state?
No, I did not introduce her to the flow state. I didn't talk about our respective, the Overton windows of our movie viewing. I haven't gone into any of this with her.
What the? Oh, I'm so sorry.
We've been broken.
We have our movie viewing.
Yeah.
What would
The
you call it?
barometer.
Our movie.
It's just
the barometer is broken.
it cracked.
We've
10
entered
movies ago, at least.
what we have coined. I think Aaron coined it. Maybe it was Zach. I don't remember. But one of you, I know it wasn't me, coined the flow state, where the movie just sort of rolls over you like a wave of water. You don't necessarily watch the movie so much as the movie happens to you.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's a defense mechanism against
You all need
these
therapy.
I
So
posited,
the main part of the flow state is accepting what life throws at you. Like when you, rather than block an opponent's attack, you redirect the opponent's attack.
we're doing
Here,
Aikido.
something stupid and awful happens, and you just go, "Oh yeah, this is the time. This is the part of the movie where that stupid and awful thing would happen," and you just move on and you don't question it.
Yeah, we're
And you
doing
just-
cinematographer's Aikido. Just redirecting it.
Okay.
I-
This sounds like puppy therapy or not therapy.
like puppy training.
Puppy training,
Mhm.
redirecting Bailey
Yeah.
during his biting. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
what was
So, would
so
you
I'm
say
interested.
This is the worst movie you saw this year, babe?
Oh.
What did you say, Aaron?
Oh, I was just wondering what your viewing experience was like. Like, how did you watch the movie?
Okay. So, what time did we start the movie last night? 9:30?
Something like that.
That was our first mistake because I was a sleepy girl by 10:30. Like I needed to be in bed and I could hardly pay attention. It was not capturing me. I was on my phone. Now, granted, my husband said I could be on my phone.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's okay.
That's fine.
So I was on my phone doing other things. We had mood lighting, so then I could get comfy cozy with a blanket. I may have had a little bubbly drink with me.
Oh, that's the only way to do it.
It's the only way to do it. Exactly. Spoiler, could not finish it initially. I couldn't even finish my drink. I was so done. Like, that's how bad it was. And so then I had to come home from work, a long day of work, to watch the last 40 minutes. It was painful. I was not happy. And I would have to say this was like the worst movie I've seen in 2023. Actually, probably one of the worst movies ever. Hallmark movies are better than this.
Oh, by a long shot. Not even close. Yeah.
Oh, this does give me a thought. This is the sister podcast. This is the spin-off where like Sarah and her mom or like Sarah and one of her friends just watches like every Hallmark movie that comes out or something like
Oh
that.
my gosh.
It's a good spin-off. I like
That
it.
is.
No, so
Yeah. No.
So like we said, my barometer's broken. I've been slowly repairing it though. I've seen a lot of movies recently.
Barbenheimer.
I
Barbie
did the
and Oppenheimer,
Barbenheimer.
of course.
I did the Barbenheimer. I did it on over a weekend. I didn't watch them back to back. And I'm still rewatching all the Mission Impossible movies. So since last episode,
We did say that we need to do that.
Yeah, since last episode, I've seen Mission Impossible 4 and 5, and Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Dang.
Yeah, and then I watched Flight of Fury, starring Steven
See,
Seagal.
yeah, I was about to say, like, you watched some pretty good ones. Actually, excellent ones.
Just some of the
arguably,
best
and then
movies
you
I've seen in a
watched
very
this.
long time.
Yikes.
Everyone needs to see
Why'd
Barbie,
you do
y'all.
that to yourself?
But so my unfortunate takeaway from this movie is that it is just on the boring side of competent.
I wouldn't even know if I don't know if it was even competent.
Well, so here's why I
and
say
keep
that.
in mind,
And
even half of this is just reused stock footage.
Yeah.
So it's competent in very big quotation marks.
here's why I say it's just on the boring side of competent.
Because Seagal only appears on screen for like maybe 2/3
No,
of it.
Oh, it's
because
glorious.
I can tell that the script writers had an outline, like
Wow.
which.
That's a pretty loose
That's
outline.
like baseline.
Well, okay, you haven't watched the previous 24 Seagal movies, which very obviously
thank you.
did not have an outline.
You can't pay me enough.
So the reason I say that, okay, so like shortly after Seagal escapes from the brainwashing prison with the help of accomplices who never come up again, he has a team of people who helped him escape from prison from where he was about to be literally like brainwashed with a brainwashing device like from Captain America, but that just never comes up again. His teammates like never come in again. That never comes up. The second scene in the movie is the pilot Colonel Ratcher, played by Steve Toussaint, who's like getting ready to fly the plane. He ends up stealing the plane. He puts a pistol in an ankle holster, which I thought, watching this movie, oh, it's a Seagal film. They're planting an idea. This will not pay off. Like, I know in my heart of hearts that this will not matter by the end of this movie. And I was very happily wrong about that. at the very end of this movie, he does pull that pistol out of his ankle holster and he does shoot someone. And so they're like, in very broad strokes, there is a structure to the movie that makes sense. Like, thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense happens and has a consequence that leads to the next thing, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it does have a general through line, which has a consequence, which leads to the next thing, and so on through the movie. Like, in very broad strokes, the movie works as a story. It's very dumb, and none of the details make any sense, but in broad strokes, it works, which for the past, 10 movies, that has not been the case. Like, even in broad strokes.
I think what Sarah really needs to know is specifically the fact that you say at the beginning they set up something and then at the end of the movie they call back. They have a payoff for that thing. We have literally been trained to not expect that. When watching his movies, one of us, Hans or Aaron or I, will say oh yeah, this thing happened, and then it was weird that it never factored in, and we have to be if a thing comes up,
just to change a man,
just know that it's not going to come back. This character that's having a change of heart, they're not going to be relevant later. This thing, this plot point that's being set up, it doesn't matter.
No,
we've learned to spot this thing that in another movie would matter because we know how movies work, doesn't matter here. So it is actually very weird that they set up that he has a pistol and then later he uses that pistol. Chekhov does not have any guns in these movies. No, this is the first time that has ever happened.
So I think my barometer is so broken that I felt watching this movie, I was proud of the writers of this movie that they did the most basic step of having an
Zach
outline.
Just winced so hard.
I was thank you, Joe Halpin.
You do realize,
writer of this movie.
You do realize when you say you're proud of them, you're saying you're proud of Steven Seagal. He is listed as the second writer.
Well,
on this.
I say that he
really?
probably gets writing credits for all the weird little changes that he made day of shooting. It was probably his idea to do the brainwashing thing. It was probably his idea to hold an AK out, full extension, arm fully extended, one-handed, firing an AK full auto.
So you're giving credit specifically to Attack Force, Flight of Fury, Urban Justice, and Pistol Whipped writer Joe Halpin.
Yes. But can tell that somebody had a general idea of, okay, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and this happens. Once you go one layer deeper than that, it all falls apart. But at least in the general sense, there is a story here about a guy tracking down a guy who stole a plane. That is happening.
That's fair, because we've said a whole bunch of
it. It is pathetic. You are right.
This is pathetic. I can't believe we're oh my god. This is
at least it's a story about something.
Every week?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, because the past few weeks, it hasn't been a story about something. It's been a whole bunch of entirely unrelated events just sort of happening on screen for no reason.
Basically a montage.
This one, Aaron is right. There is actually a sort of loose path that connects all of the plot points.
This is one of the more movies.
Yeah. Very sorry to break it to you, but yeah, movies can get much worse than this.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just I think you just need to check yourself as to why you're doing this in the first place. You are literally rotting your brain.
It was...
We're halfway through. We can't stop now.
It was many episodes ago, but I wondered aloud, are we accidentally doing a Supersize Me where it's not so much about the McDonald's menu of Seagal movies, but about what it does to our minds and bodies?
I love that.
Because the way I watch movies is different. When I started my Mission Impossible rewatch, I started with Mission Impossible 3 because those are the most relevant to the new movies. And the whole time I'm watching Tom Cruise get beat up and do crazy stunts, and I'm Steven Seagal would never. There's no way.
Those fight scenes, atrocious. Atrocious.
Oh yeah, not good.
Well, how many times did we point out that we couldn't see their faces?
Oh, it's literally it's all the time.
It's all the time. But fighting the moves don't even make sense. They make no sense. And there's no continuation of a move from one scene to a next.
Yeah.
Or whatever scene. You know what I mean? Not a scene, but
a shot.
A shot. Yes, thank you.
One beat to the next doesn't make any sense.
Oh.
This is another thing though, where again, we need to explain how rare it is that actually they're hiding his face and his moves don't look good, but it's not like very obviously another person subbing in to do the action or subbing in to do the dialogue. Like the fact that this
Or subbing in to do the stairs.
Right.
Like-
The fact that this is not obviously another person who is not Seagal playing Seagal's part for like 70% of the movie is again a rare thing.
This is a very sad step up from the previous like 10 movies.
This entire thing is sad. Just absolutely sad.
Can I talk about a rabbit hole that I went
Y'all are
down when
broken.
watching this movie?
Oh, please do. I already did mine.
So Sarah, you talked about like being on your phone during like
Yeah.
a big chunk of the movie. I was on my phone during a big chunk of the movie, wondering what in the world was going on with these guns. I learned so much about the history of the automatic Kalashnikov. So throughout this movie, they're using AKs with a side folding stock and a front wooden foregrip.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. Like as
What?
a rifle.
I think it's not like I don't know how to explain it. It is like the grip where your hand is like where like fist vertical. It is like
It's
Yeah.
like a weird
it's a
molded,
foregrip,
yeah.
like a pistol foregrip
Yeah.
on the front of the rifle. There was never a production AK with a wooden foregrip. That never happened, which means that it's a custom rifle. So I went down this rabbit hole. So what they're firing?
Are you sure?
I did a lot. It was dumb how much time I spent on this. So they're using an AKS-74, which has so the AKS S for short. It has a side folding butt stock, because I thought at first it was an AKS from the 47 line, which was only called the 47 for the Type 1 AK, which only lasted like a couple of years. By the mid-50s, they had moved away from the 47 designation,
God.
but that had an underfolding buttstock. And so that means it had to be from the AK-74 line. So it was an AKS-74, but the AKS-74 was never produced with a foregrip, especially a wooden foregrip, which means that was a custom modification, which means that every time you see anyone firing an AK in this movie, it's like the same 3 rifles that they just passed around to everybody, which in a normal movie wouldn't be that bad. Like when you watch a military movie, whatever, and they're firing like M4s or M16s or whatever, like they're basically indistinguishable from each other. So like they'll have, 10 people who are supposed to be firing these weapons, but only have like 5 guns on set. And depending on what shot you're doing, you'll just pass around the same guns and it doesn't matter because they're identical. The problem is all of these guns that we're using in this movie are modified in like really weird ways. And so they're very recognizable. So I know when Seagal like is firing blindly around a corner, and the other guy
And not putting the stock in his
nobody
shoulder, just
fires
down in his gut.
with the stock in their shoulder. Everyone is firing from the hip throughout the entire movie. It is like the SEALs, the Navy SEALs who have like MP5s, which is a British firearm, but whatever, are like firing from the hip. No one is aiming down sights at any moment. Like you'll have 2 people in this movie who are firing at each other, and it'll be like one shot of one guy firing, another shot, another guy firing. And I know that it's the same rifle in each guy's hand. Like they shot one shot and then he handed it to the other actor and they shot him firing back with the same gun, which normally wouldn't be a problem if you were just using like standard AKs, but it has a custom foregrip and it drove me up the wall, which it shouldn't have.
Did you ever stop to consider that these were also rare, limited prototype $75 million AKs that they had paid somebody like $200 million to like steal for them? Did you ever consider that possibility?
That is quite possible.
I'm boring.
That's
I didn't
amazing.
go down a rabbit hole with this because it wasn't worth my time.
It wasn't worth mine either. That's the sad part about it.
Okay, but what I will say, what was pretty fun this time, watching with Sarah, was like as we were going, pointing out like what is a traditional like Seagal hallmark and like what is not. Like as we're going, like something would happen, I'd be like, yeah, like this is like what happens like in a Seagal movie. Like this happens all the time. The one that sticks out the most is when he's in the room with the woman, the good gal. I forget her. What's her character's name?
Jessica.
It's not Eliana. It's Jessica. Yeah.
Jessica.
When he's in the room with Jessica.
Which
and
where did she
is
come
wearing
from?
something-
Who is she? Why is she here?
It kind of.
Don't
his
worry about it.
partner,
And they're
maybe,
together?
potentially?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
He
like
calls
why
her
is she
babe
in
at the end.
Afghanistan and the terrorists know where she is, but she's also hiding from them? I don't know.
Couldn't tell you that.
Don't worry about it.
Flow state. Aaron.
Flow state.
None of your business.
I watched too many good movies this week. I wasn't in the flow state.
Ah, the flow state. The flow's broken.
I know.
But while we're watching, I'm just like doing the classic thing. We're watching. I'm like, okay, yeah, here's like, honestly, in a lot of ways, it felt like a bit of a throwback. Like there were more like 90s Seagal things here than like 2000s Seagal things here. I'm like, oh, here's like the, hard to kill, like, liquor store holdup that he stops.
Oh, I have a note about that. I was like, oh, this feels like an early Seagal scene where he goes into a convenience store and there's like a holdup in a convenience store and he just murders everyone while letting the convenience store clerk die.
It felt very early Seagal. But I'm like, oh yeah, like, that happens, then this happens. The one I didn't anticipate is when he's in the room with Jessica and she's wearing a revealing outfit. And I said, okay, what's probably going to happen here, because this happens a lot, is she will get just randomly completely naked and he will stay fully clothed, like trench coat and sunglasses on, and just kind of like paw at her. And that will be the sex scene.
Yeah.
Movie did a plot twist right when I thought I was in the flow state, right when I thought it was going to happen. The evil gal, I'm really blank. Eliana, she comes in and Seagal hides and Jessica seduces her and they make out, and it's a very like a sapphic romance there until Jessica pulls out the gun and doesn't kill her, but it's just like, okay, like get out, and just like kicks Eliana out. It was very weird, very random, and I was just like, that doesn't normally happen. Normally you have a fully clothed Seagal with like a naked woman for an unnecessary sex scene. They don't typically have the two gals. So
I could have gone on longer. I would have been okay with
so
that.
Maybe technically this could be the first Seagal movie to pass the Bechdel test. So we can give it that. Congratulations. I think this has to be the first one.
Wow.
So the bar is that low. But that's the first thing that I was really like, oh, that's new. That doesn't typically happen.
No. No. No.
No.
Everything else was very typical Seagal. We have a car chase where you can't see anyone's faces inside
It
there.
felt classic
What I wanna
Seagal,
know-
though. Oh, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
I want to know, why does this man talk so softly? What is the point?
Why does he talk so softly and slur over his words? He talk real fast. He can't actually sit them out. He can't actually say
Because he doesn't
anything?
know his
No.
lines.
I don't know.
It makes no sense.
Because it's just saying stuff.
And then in the middle of talking real fast, so
That's a
and
great
throw a couple
impression.
of those in there.
But then he comes in at one point. Oh, you're gonna have to bleep this out. But he's like, "What
Thanks
is
for the
it?
warning.
I'm gonna move out of the way, mother or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, this is like the only time that you are actually loud."
That's a
Very.
rare
He, like,
moment.
shouts
He will
it.
go whole
Yeah.
movies. He'll
It's
go
true.
a whole era without ever raising his voice.
A whole era.
The like 5 or 6 movies. Just
Oh,
never
Lord.
raise his voice.
Everything's like a husky whisper,
Yeah.
That's a good way to describe it.
Oh, and you know what? You know what you missed, babe? You know what you didn't really experience here?
What did I miss, babe? Tell me.
What you missed out on is Steven Seagal trying to sound black.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't do it every movie,
my God.
but there's like, I'm not even joking. This man who was born in Lansing, Michigan, like Lily White Steven Seagal in previous movies has said like, all right, now get this white out of here or something like that. Like he straight up tries to talk like a very stereotypical black man in these movies. Like he changes
That's
his accent.
awful.
He'll change his accent like multiple times within the same movie. And some of them are a lot worse than others.
Well, when,
So you didn't have that. This was just straight up whispery husky Seagal.
when he's not pretending to be Asian.
He does that a lot too.
or American Indian.
Oh.
So problematic.
Ridiculous.
Oh, my.
I talking about a man who's awful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I
Yeah.
still don't
Yeah.
understand.
He's terrible.
You
Oh, yeah,
will
he's
never
terrible. He's
horrific.
convince me. Like,
Oh,
He's
I'm
like maybe
What are we
one of the
trying to
worst human
convince you
beings on
of?
the planet.
don't watch these movies.
Just unapologetically
Yeah,
bad.
that's why we're watching them. We're watching them so no one else has to.
oh wow, you're doing such a kind deed for everyone else.
It's
huh?
public
a
service.
noble thing.
Oh please. I did just learn about what is it, Expendables?
We were talking about the Expendables because I was mentioning like when you look up are there any current or future Skull projects in the works, the only thing you'll find is them very specifically saying that he will not be in Expendables 4.
Emphasis on the not.
Was he in any previous Expendables?
No.
No.
Okay.
It's just because the Expendables are like every single action movie star that you've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Other than Seagal. And they've said no.
Absolutely not.
Can I say a fun fact?
Yeah, go for it.
Please do.
Hans, you know this fun fact, if you remember
Okay.
it. You mentioned something about what SR-71,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah.
Do you remember my fun fact, Hans?
I do.
Okay, I'll tell you, Aaron. So my fun fact that is not really related to this movie is that my dad, way back when, was an attorney, and he got a job writing like instruction manuals. And he worked on like top secret projects and on a military base, and all of his kids, but me, have like health issues because of like all the radiation exposure he had. Yeah, it's pretty, I wouldn't say bad, but intense, right? But he wrote the instruction manual for SR-71.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
that's my
cool.
fun fact.
So often we wonder aloud what Aaron's dad would think of these movies because he has seen some Pascal movies. So I wonder what Sarah's dad would think of this movie.
I would be very curious. He'd probably look at the, what is this, X-77?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
the $75 million stealth
he
bomber.
would go on a total rampage about like how awful it is. Similar to like what you did, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, can I just say the first time that plane turns invisible, the first time they have it go invisible was hilarious. They're talking about the stealth bomber, and I'm just picturing, like, yeah, you know how stealth bombers work. They, like, disappear from radar. I was not ready for this thing to literally just, like,
Literally disappear.
like, just Wonder
It's
Woman
like
invisible jet.
It's like the Star Trek transporter
Yeah.
effect, too. It's wild.
And then sometimes they kind of had the budget to do, like, a little, oh, it's not fully invisible, it's like refracting lights. And then sometimes they're just like, nope, they just wipe it, like, Photoshop, like, you know, background fill-in tool. Like, just, it's gone.
Amazing.
Oh, man.
So, actors who went on to do bigger and better things. Do we want to go there yet? Are we ready?
Are there any of those?
Yes, actually. So, the
Yeah,
guy who
let's hit
stole
it.
the plane, Captain
Steve.
Ratcher, played by Steve Toussaint. He plays Lord Corlys Valerian in House of the Dragon.
Oh.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I did recognize
Very
him.
important character from House of the Dragon.
So that's the second House of Dragon character that we've had in a Skull movie.
Yes.
Is Max's TV show House of the Dragon the new Super Mario Brothers movie for the Skull podcast?
No, sadly. We're not even close. Angus MacInnes, who played General Tom Barnes, like the main military leader guy who was in charge of like the Air Force general. Angus MacInnes, he played Gold Leader in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and he reprised his role in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story in 2016.
There's some smaller roles, but he had some small roles in Judge Dredd, Eyes Wide Shut, and Hellboy. Those are some pretty cool ones.
I don't know why you're pointing out all of this when you could be... Actually, just kidding. Never mind. I thought it said Grey's Anatomy, not Gross Anatomy. But a point still stands. What I was going to say, you got to recognize Grey's Anatomy, but just kidding.
Wait, you didn't... So you saw the Gross Anatomy, but you didn't want to talk about the fact that he was in Superman 2 as the Warden?
Yeah, you're right.
So Jessica, played by Sierra Payton, she was in 90 episodes of some TV show called The Oval, so she's doing fine for herself. That TV show ended in 2022, and she's been in 2 episodes of a new TV show, Princess Power, in 2023, so she's still making stuff, so good for her. Actually, it seems like pretty much everyone in this movie at least has, like, background roles in other much, much better projects.
I can tell you that Vincenzo Nicoli, who played Peter Stone, was in Thomas and Friends, Digs and Discoveries,
Nice.
a Thomas the Tank Engine
Well,
movie.
that's nice.
Okay.
That's good.
I bet you didn't have that one
No.
written down.
I'm trying to find like behind the scenes people.
Oh, like some of the crew.
Yeah, who did.
Are his stuntmen credited in this one?
Okay, I did point that out actually while
Yeah,
we
you
were
did.
watching the movie that it lists the stuntmen, and Sarah pointed out like there's a lot of stuntmen. There's like something like 20 or 30 like stuntmen listed there.
Yeah.
And then also there is one specifically that is like stuntman for Mr. Seagal or something like that.
Dion Hristov.
And I thought that was interesting considering we've seen
That's
in the
good.
past like he would literally fight to have a particular stuntman and then not credit them in the movie.
Yep.
The fact that they credit like specifically, here's the stunt person for Steven Seagal.
It was like a stuntman and a photo man.
Oh yeah, they had stunt double and photo double for Mr. Seagal.
Oh.
It was stupid.
He's such a terrible person.
At least he credited them this time. That's all we can say.
I guess.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, there are some interesting people behind the scenes, but I'm not finding much, to be honest.
This is another one.
It was not memorable.
No, it was frustrating, irritating, overall bad. And it just ends. I brought this up very briefly. I can't stress enough. It ends on the world's dullest dogfight.
You can't see anything.
2 planes in the air. Any other movie could have made that work, but they managed to make it really boring.
You can't see anything. Like I have in my notes, everything is shot in such extreme close-up that it feels experimental.
Yeah.
Well, everything is shot up in exactly the way you need to film it when you want to use entirely stock footage for like the final climactic like dogfight of your movie, and you can just in post cut to close-ups filmed like on a soundstage with like the 2 actors.
Yeah, I guess.
There was also those weird, awkward close-ups between the 2 guys.
When the 2 like military guys are like cutting the deal, like, you know, it's these Dutch angles that are like an inch from their face, and they're both
awful.
like they're both in kissing range.
It threw me off so much because those 2 had conversations like 8 other times, and it was completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then for that one scene, they were like, exactly like you said. They were like inches. Their noses could have touched.
It was... Nope.
It was really weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. It made me
Very,
kind of
very weird.
uncomfortable.
Sarah,
What?
what was your favorite line? What's a quote? What's some dialogue you remember?
What?
That's a section on this podcast.
Dialogue to memory.
I'm gonna have to be totally honest too. This is another one where I struggle. If you like truly ask me to think of like one quote that sticks out, I don't know if
I have
can.
a couple.
You have a couple? Oh my gosh, please let me
have
copy
a
your
couple.
homework
I have a
because
couple.
I don't know. I can't remember a single line from this movie.
All right, I had to write them down because I knew I'd forget. In the very beginning, when Seagal gets caught and at the convenience store, and they take him in and start questioning him, they look at the tape, see that he didn't actually rob the convenience store, and they have to get in contact with the military.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to get in contact with the military. I don't even remember what happened, but the guy in charge of the investigation sends this guy off and says, yeah, go find him. And somebody comes back in and hands him a coffee. And it's like the scene's almost over, but this guy hands him a coffee and says, your coffee, sir. And the guy takes like a solid 4 seconds and recoils and then says, I don't drink coffee. And then the scene's over. I thought that was very funny.
Like, what's the point?
Well, because
exactly.
he asked for coffee at the beginning of the scene. Yeah.
He did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh!
He says, go bring me a coffee, and then at the end when they bring it, he goes, I don't drink coffee.
This movie has set up and
That makes it
payoff.
even
That
better.
character never comes back again, by the way.
But he's like surprisingly established for a character that never comes back.
Yeah.
He like seems like an actual character.
Yeah. He's got a personality.
Oh, the other one. They're talking what's his name? Seagal's partner, who wasn't really a partner that he didn't like, but then saved at the end and didn't actually play in anything. It doesn't matter.
In this movie or in the last 24 movies?
Yeah, exactly.
Richard Janik, played by Mark Basley.
Yeah, and they have to go confront... Oh, crap, you just said it. The guy that stole the plane in the first place. They confront him. They don't just shoot him. They have every opportunity to just kill him, and they don't do it. He's asking him why he did it. And the guy says, because they're going to pay me $200 million free and clear. And it's another like really long gap. And the guy looks at him and then has this like quizzical look pop on his face. And he says, but this is treason. Yeah? $200 million. What don't you understand about that? It's a lot of money. But this is treason. I don't know. I thought that was funny. That's all I got. Seagal ends up flying the stupid jet back to Edwards Air Base from Afghanistan without refueling.
Which they so there's this whole
again-
scene where they refuel the Blackbird on the way to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Because they
But
had
they
some
don't refuel
archival
the
footage
Nighthawk.
of a Blackbird refueling. Like, we paid for this. We're going to use it.
Yeah, I think that's just about all I got. This sucked. I couldn't even. I thought in the moment these quotes were funny, and now I'm reading them back to me and I'm realizing,
That's even
man, that wasn't
that's
actually
the
that funny.
part.
That's the funny part that I thought was funny isn't actually funny. This movie
Just on the
sucked.
boring side of competent.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head.
What's funny for me is how long have we been on this call?
An hour.
An hour. And we still have yet to mention the fact that these are like biohazard bombs that they're going to
Oh,
drop.
yeah. There's this
And
whole
that
plot
all
at
of
the
a
end
sudden,
to drop like
2
bioweapons on America.
like 2 days it will take to take over the world. And I was like, where did this come?
We haven't talked about the
What?
villain at all.
No.
Because he
No.
It's 'cause
simply
it doesn't really
doesn't
matter.
matter.
I do also appreciate that they
It just didn't make sense.
The thing that stuck out to me is that he pays this guy $100 million to steal the $75 million plane, and then another $100 million to fly the plane to drop these. And they need the super stealthy plane so they can fly over Europe and drop this bomb, and then fly over America and drop this bomb. But then they say it will spread to literally the entire world, including Antarctica. Like, they speed run a game of Pandemic up on this military screen in 48 hours. So you could just drop this bomb, like, literally right where it's at, and apparently it will still take over the world. Maybe it'll just take, 72 hours instead.
Yeah.
I don't know why they even needed the plane in the first place.
No.
It was stupid.
Well, like, we haven't talked about the villain at all. So, like, the villain is actually British. Well, so his dad is British and his mom is Afghan, and his mother was killed in an American raid in Afghanistan. So, like, he hates America, which sympathetic villain.
Fair.
At that point.
Go off, King.
But then he decides, I'm going to blow up the whole world, including England and the United States, with these virus bombs, which will kill literally everybody. Which, okay, fine.
Including the country that I'm supposedly mad that the United States bombed.
Yeah.
It will kill everyone there too.
Yeah. He matters to the actual plot almost not at all. Seagal never confronts him. There's not like a showdown with him.
Oh, he really
No.
doesn't, does he?
Yeah,
No.
weirdly enough,
That's a good point.
the guy, our friend Ratcher, says, "Hey, are you going to pay me?" And the guy says, "Oh yeah, of course. Here's some cash, and I wired you the rest of the money." And then Ratcher just kills him.
how? Like,
Like, it never
Not really any point to
never
that one
comes
either.
up again. Doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
you know, I could have enjoyed this movie maybe
Really?
just a touch more if I didn't sit here and analyze it like this.
No, so the funny that happens a lot. We're actually talking about it. We'll like be this movie sucked. It was awful. I'm mad, and then we talk about it, and we're like, okay, it's actually not funny. Maybe it's like kind of funny in a way. That the opposite does happen a lot too, where you're like, oh, I kind of had like a decent time, and then you talk about it, and you're like, wow, no, there's like no redeeming qualities to this.
No.
Yeah.
Favorite line for me? I don't have one. I don't remember anything from this movie. I don't remember
I did
any
think
words
about
that
it. It's
anyone
not a
said.
specific line.
Aaron was talking.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
interrupt him.
That's how this goes. That's why we record on separate audio tracks. It's fine.
I'm going to leave that in, though.
Yeah. Movie I would watch instead? Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Watch Top
Yeah.
Gun instead.
For sure.
Sarah, what movie would you watch instead? And you can't say Top Gun. I took that one.
I was gonna say, can I say Top Gun Maverick?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
Loophole.
Okay, thank you. Or Armageddon.
Why? Not that. I'm sorry. I
Hans
don't
has
mean
like
that as
the
in that's a
least
bad choice.
ground
I'm
on
curious
which to say why.
Yeah,
this
I'm
particular
curious to
movie.
know.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, no. I don't mean that as though that's the wrong choice. I'm
We asked
curious
for
to
what
know
movie
why
watch
you would
instead, and we
choose
try
it.
to find something that's relevant, and then he just goes, "Oh, I don't know, The Big Lebowski," just out of nowhere.
Doesn't Armageddon at least have a spapeship on it? Like
Yeah,
the-
no, yours somewhat relates. Hans
Yeah.
is never relates.
Yeah, so screw you, Hans.
Yeah, screw you, Hans.
I was just
Oh,
curious.
Pearl Harbor is a good
Oh,
one.
there you
too.
go.
No, I'm looking for one. Don't steal all of the ones. I'm trying to think of another plane movie. I just Google searched fighter jet movie.
Airplane.
Airplane.
Oh, Airplane.
Air Force
Yeah,
One.
You're
that's a good one.
welcome.
Oh, Air Force. Okay, I'm gonna before anyone steals, I'm gonna say airplane ! And I'm gonna say Air Force One. So.
That one scene
Good
from
luck,
the original
Hans.
Transformers where the little robot steals the data from George Bush
So cute.
when he asked for a ding dong.
I forgot about that.
That's my favorite scene in the original Transformers. It's so stupid.
My favorite scene is when they're in the interrogation room and my man
I ate the
eats all
whole
the
plate.
because he's innocent. He eats the whole plate, yeah.
Oh man, that just makes me want to like rewatch the series of video essays on YouTube, The Whole Plate. Oh, it's great. It's very, very good.
So you can watch that instead too.
Yeah.
For me, it's gonna be season 6, episode 1 of Archer, The Holdout.
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
He does this every time.
in that
He does this
listen,
all the
hear
time.
me out. Hear me out. In that episode, Archer's mission is to go find a plane that crashed in enemy
Oh.
territory and destroy it.
Wow.
Okay, this is actually the first time it's relevant.
I'm also going to suggest Independence Day.
Ooh,
Okay.
okay, Independence Day is a
Okay,
good one.
Independence Day is good. Yeah. Or whatever episodes of House of the Dragon that Steve Toussaint is in as Lord Corliss.
This is pretty
He did kill
sad,
it.
but even like the really terrible like end of Game of Thrones, when we're getting towards the end of Game of Thrones, like 7 or 8, whenever you have like the Iron Fleet up against like the dragons, like that's kind of like an aerial combat movie, and that's really bad, but still better than this.
Yeah, I'd rather watch the entire final season of Game of Thrones
Ooh,
before this.
Any parting thoughts for anybody on this movie, Flight of Fury?
Flight of Fury, more like Flight and Hurry Up. I'm done watching this movie.
Preach. It was unremarkable, unmemorable. Truly don't waste your time. If
we-
you... I'm not done talking.
I waited for a gap. You tricked me.
I'm allowed to have gaps while I'm thinking. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, come on.
If you want your brain to be rotted, sure. But if you need to like keep some sanity, don't bother. We have listed several other movies to watch. Move on.
Yeah, if we did not watch
Actually,
this,
no, I still have more. No, I'm just kidding.
if we did not watch this specifically to talk about on a podcast, I would have forgotten about this movie already. I would like forget that I watched it. I would just think, oh, did I fall asleep during Top Gun the other day? Like,
Hans.
Flight of Fury, more like Flight of Turdy.
oh, he did.
He
once.
tried.
He tried.
That was an attempt.
Flight of Fury, more
Thanks,
like
guys.
a Fury. Boom, got him.
Flight of Fury, more like Flight or Fight, because that's what it made me feel.
So bad. No. Why would I make a fool of my... No. Mm-mm. No.
That's the whole point of what we're doing here.
You should be proud of
I am
Hans
the
that he even
sane one.
attempted one.
Yeah, you
This
watched
is what we
history
do every
being
week.
made here.
You're a part of history being in 20 years when we're all famous, and this is what got us off the ground. You can thank yourself for being a part of it.
I'll just thank my husband. He will fund my expensive lifestyle.
You should be glad. He said whenever he made some kind of joke like that before, he said like, "Oh yeah, when this podcast is a hit after we're like long dead or something." I was like, "Why do we have to be dead in this scenario?"
The only thing that's sticking with me this evening is that when Hans introduced me, he introduced me as his best friend.
Aww.
I just want that to stay with everyone.
No, I have to introduce you like that. We're legally bound
We are legally bound.
by
This is true.
either a paper plate or a paper towel. I can't remember.
Paper towel.
I have
Get it
I
right.
have photographic evidence of it. But anyway, I guess that was Flight of Fury. Don't watch it. It's not worth your time. It's
True
not
that.
even fun
I
bad.
second
It's
that.
just bad.
I've heard that.
No, it's just bad.
Lower end of mediocre competent.
Well, if you were to go on a letterbox, what would you rate it?
Oh.
Oh yes,
2
1
stars.
star.
2 stars.
2.
2.
That's generous.
That's generous. What would you rate it?
Oh, half a star.
Half a star.
Wow.
See, again, this is the
Oh,
barometer.
Sarah, Sarah, you don't
Not
know
even
how
close.
far down we've been.
I've heard, but I haven't watched any of those. I haven't wasted my time.
They
so
get
I'm already-
so bad. You pray that like one day Letterboxd will let you do like fractional stars. Like each point of the star can be its own rating.
Like, most review things make me wish for like a 10-point scale. Seagal movies make me need like a 100-point scale, so I can say this is like a 27 and this is like a 26.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go right there in the sweet spot that nobody's hit yet. I'm gonna say 1.5 stars.
There you go. Ticker still remains the champion of worst Seagal film.
I'm gonna
Worst Seagal film?
I'm gonna make Sarah watch Ticker
Yeah.
at some point just so
No.
she knows how low the bar goes. Hans, what do we have coming up next after this
Yeah,
one?
what's next week?
Oh, that is a good question.
The answer is urban justice. Come on, get on top of it.
Urban
Just be
justice.
hosting
Oh
this
my
thing.
God,
Released in
urban
the United
justice.
Kingdom as renegade justice.
Ooh. Brits need a fancy word.
This one I can tell is going to be
Yeah.
dicey.
This one will be very dicey, I'm sure. But in the meantime, make sure you always have a flight plan to freedom.
Ooh.
That means one of us has to die.
What, you're telling me he didn't find the enemy on the other side
No,
in this one?
I don't. The enemy on the other side. The enemy. Just isn't that where the enemies always are?
It's okay, babe.
No, that was the tagline for what's it called?
Yeah.
The one that the episode that just went up.
Oh.
Yeah. No. Zach didn't
No.
just make that up. That was a
Oh.
bullshit tagline for some other awful movie.
It was this time he found the enemy on the other side, on the wrong side or something like that.
Are we done for this?
I think we're done.
Oh, thank God.